Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, so, although we have, uh, discussed about the linear Uchet potential in the last class, but due to some audio problem, I think you were not able to, continue with the class. So let me just, repeat the same in today's class. So we have solved the inhomogeneous wave equation using Green's function method and obtained two solution for the scalar potential and the vector potential, if you remember, which are simply, so these are the solution of the inhomogeneous wave equation I'm writing here. So one is the scalar potential phi. This gives us the scalar potential at a location r at some present time t, and we have to integrate over the source which is time dependent, and the time dependent charge density at location r prime, source point, and some other time which are called retarded time tr, right, which is t minus r by c, capital curly r by c, divided by curly r which is r minus r prime, and this is some volume element dv prime. Similarly, for the vector potential, we have another solution coming from Green's function method, which is mu 0 over 4 pi, and then current density at location r prime at retarded time tr r dv prime. So these are the solutions that we already know, and I told you that in a general setting where we have a volume occupied by some charge and current which are varying with time, one can calculate the scalar potential and vector potential by carrying out this integration. And there is one particular topic which basically deals with this, which is called multipole radiation. I will come to this topic later, because this is a general topic where you have fluctuating charge density and current density, which can give rise to electromagnetic radiation. So I will show you that there can be different terms like this quadrupole, dipole, quadrupole, octapole, which can give rise to radiation. But this is, I think, purely mathematical. You will hardly gain any insight into the problem. That's why I discuss about this particular topic at the end of my course. So, okay, in the beginning, so let us discuss the problem about a moving charge, one single point charge which is moving. So that can also give rise to variation in charge density and current density. And if you understand this clearly, you will have a better physical insight into the problem. And then, handling this general scenario will be, straightforward. So let us start our discussion with the moving point charge. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Okay. Okay. So today we shall discuss about the potential produced by a moving point charge. Now, what do we mean by point charge? As I earlier told you that there is nothing such thing as point charge. In reality, but again, it's a mathematical approximation. Volume going to zero, even an electron cannot be treated exactly as a point charge. Right? It has some finite dimension or certain physical size, so you cannot really treat it as a point charge. But in classical electrodynamics, usually whenever we have some charge, we treat it as a point charge. And in this particular problem also, we shall treat the moving charge as a point charge, right? And we shall calculate the potential produced by this point charge at some arbitrary point, so let us draw the picture. So we shall discuss about the Leonard-Wishart potential. Okay. So Leonard-Wishart potential are just the name of the potential produced by a moving point charge. These we already know. These are called retarded potentials. General terminology, retarded potential, and that is because the potentials are sourced by the charge density and current density from a retarded time tr. That's why they're called retarded potential. But again, this is another name. So this is another set of potential. We shall arrive at those potential from this expression only. So let us draw the picture of moving point charge. So let us imagine a coordinate system like this. Okay, maybe it's a lab frame. We have some coordinate system x, y, and z, where a point charge is moving along some arbitrary trajectory. So it could be any trajectory. So here I'm just drawing a general picture. So the source is here, point charge here, which is moving. So at different instant of time, it is a different location. And we have a field point over there, which we called P, which has a coordinate vector r. So this is P. And let us assume that the point charge is at some point here. Say, let us call the source is S. So let us call this S prime. The source at different locations can be labeled as S prime or S double prime, S triple prime, or S1, S2, S3, S4, whatever you like. And the coordinate of the source is, say, at this location is r prime. Now you can clearly see that r prime will vary as the point charge will move along the trajectory. The r prime will vary, but not the r vector is a fixed vector. It gives the coordinate of the field point, but the r prime vector will change with time because the point source is at a different location at different time. Now at this particular moment, when I'm calculating the potential at this point P, oh, and suppose the point charge is here, and I also showed you that actually at most only one point, and only one point on the trajectory of the particle of charge q can be in communication with the field point phi at that present time t, because it takes a finite time, right, delta t, which is t minus tr, for electromagnetic news to propagate from r prime at the retarded time tr to the field point p at the present time t. So there is a separation between them. So let us label that as curly r, which is curly r vector is r minus r prime, which is r minus r prime. And because of this finite speed of light, only one point can communicate with the field point at any given instant. And that we have discussed, because otherwise the speed of the charged particle has to be at least equal to the speed of light. Then only two different source point can simultaneously communicate with the field point. Otherwise it is not possible. I have already discussed this. I don't know, or maybe it's very straightforward to show, because suppose there are two source point here and here, which has, say, from the field point the distance are, say, curly r1 and curly r2. So what is this curly r? Curly r is basically this curly r is the mod of curly r is the basically this is the magnitude of the vector. This curly r is nothing but c times delta t. And what is delta t? Delta t is the time separation. So delta t is, if the time here is t and here the time is tr, then delta t is simply t is larger than tr, so t minus tr. This is delta t, right? Delta t. And so if we assume that there are suppose two source points which are simultaneously communicating with the point p, then we can straight away write that the curly r1, suppose there are two source point. For one, the separation from the field point is r1. Say for another one here, say the separation from the field point, say let us call this s double prime. So this, for this one, suppose this is curly r1, this is for curly r2. So curly r1 will be simply c times t minus tr1 retarded time 1, and then curly r2 will be c times t minus tr2. So if you take the separation between the amplitude of these two vectors, right, so that will be equal to how much? So if you calculate the speed, I mean, by that time tr1 minus tr2, the charge particle has moved from this point to that point, right? So if you calculate the speed that has to be at least. So C is how much? R1. So if you take difference between the two vectors, so the R1 minus R2, R1 minus R2, that will be C into TR2 minus TR1. That means this is the separation between these two vectors, and R1 minus R2, this separation from here to here, this is R1 minus R2, and you divide by the time elapsed, that will be the speed of light. So if I want to calculate the speed of the charge particle, that is equal to R1 minus R2, which is divided by TR2 minus TR1, which will be equal to C. Now this is not possible, right? Impossible. So only one point at a particular instant will be in communication with the field point, and this is important to remember, right? And once you remember this, now we have to apply our these solutions coming from Green's function method, right? This is the retarded potential, scalar potential. This is retarded vector potential, right? Okay, so let us calculate these entities, that is retarded potential for the moving point charge. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the retarded potential for any time varying charge density or current density was how much? That this was phi RT. You have to remember what R in this context is. I have already drawn the diagram in the last page. If you forgot that, I will draw it once again. Just wait a minute. So rho R prime TR over curly R. Curly R is R minus R prime dp prime. So what was our picture? Something like this. This was our source coordinate R prime. Field was R. This distance was curly R, which is R minus R prime, and the source is moving. So at different time, it is located at different point on the trajectory of the charge particle. Well, so we have to carry out this integration. Now, if you look at this integrand here, so what is dv prime here? That you have to figure out, right? So dv prime must be some small volume element surrounding the point charge. So let us consider a small volume element surrounding the point charge. Now, if you want to carry out this integral, how do we deal with these different variables? Say 1 over r here, right? So r is what? R is basically distance from the source point to the field point. That's a mod of this curly r. This is r, and then on top of that, numerator is this charge density. Now we know what is charge density. Charge divided by volume is called charge density. Fine. And r prime is the location of the moving point charge. Tr is the retarded time at which the electromagnetic signal started its journey from the source point to the field point. Now if you want to carry out this integral, how do we proceed? How should we proceed? Now, since it's a point charge, one may think that there is only one single point charge which is located at different uh, point at different times, but the amount of charge should not vary whether I take this much volume of that much volume. That's true, but so in some sense you may think that, okay, if I carry out this integral, since it is a point charge, maybe this shouldn't matter. Maybe I can take out this 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. This r can be taken outside the integral, because if you think the volume to be sufficiently small, then this curly r is not changing very much within that small time interval, because this small r, this curly r, is basically giving you the distance between the source point and the field point. So if the time interval is very short, then this volume can be taken very small, and you can think that curly r is not changing, so you can keep this outside. So whatever is left inside the integral is basically rho r prime dr dv prime. Now this is the total charge enclosed inside the volume element dv prime. Sorry, this volume, whatever volume, not the volume element. Volume element is, again, you can divide it into small parts, and that is dv prime. So this is the volume time integral of the charge density. And since the total charge may think that this should be q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r, but this is not true, because I have already told you that whenever we observe some volume, the information coming from different parts of the volume originated at different instant of time. So in general, if we have a static charge distribution with respect to the volume, then we think that, okay, if we integrate, even if we have some volume element where I have different parts, and we integrate these different parts, so we have, suppose we know the charge density rho, so if we integrate rho dv, we should get back the total charge q. That is true only if all the charge densities coming from different parts or the element of volumes are from the same instant of time. But if they are from different instant of time, so the point is that we have to integrate at a fixed time, then only you can expect this to be true, otherwise not. Because by the time I take the reading for charge density in this volume, suppose the charge density in this part has changed, or say when I integrate by looking at a volume, different part of the volume is communicating with the observer from different instance. So this suppose there is an observer here who is measuring the charge densities or whatever, light is coming from here to here, so the time to reach the observer from different parts takes different amount of time. So information coming from this volume element and this volume element are from different instant of time. So if that means we cannot expect this to be exactly equal to q. If we integrate rho dv, we should not expect it to be q, because the information are from different instant. That means this physical phenomena has nothing to do with relativity. It's a purely geometric phenomena, and this will basically distort the actual distribution of the charge that we are observing or looking at. And one should take into account this geometrical distortion while dealing with a moving point chart. So this cannot be true. So that's why uh, one has to look for an alternate solution. That means what should be the integral that we have to figure out. Now there are many different ways. I think there are at least 3 to 4 different ways to arrive at the expression. But again, I do not want to confuse you, because there are ways to arrive at the Leonard-Wichet potential using, say, Dirac delta function, or even this Lorentz transformation. Okay, so I will discuss 2 of them in my class. One of them is very simple with clear physical insight, and that's why I prefer the first one, because it gives you some physical insight what is happening there, right? Okay, ultimately you will get the same mathematical expression, but having a clear physical insight is more important when you are a physicist. Okay, that's my viewpoint. Anyway, so I will show you the 2 different ways to arrive at the same expression. So one is from Griffith's book, which is I think I like this particular discussion on this particular topics from Griffith's book, because it gives you a clear example how that particular expression arrived at. Well, so our problem was to integrate this time dependent functions, rho r prime tr dv prime, right, where dv prime is the different parts of the volume, and rho basically is the charge density at those particular volumes originating at different time tr. Now, to make it clear what Griffith has done, Griffith's book give you a simple example. That's again an example, which if you understand that example, you will understand the expression for Leonard-Wichet potential. So what it is saying, so the volume element, so as you have discussed, that the volume element, different part of the volume element is not contributing at the same instant. So to make it clear, so Griffith has given a simple example. Suppose there is a train. Okay, there is some observer here, and there is a train. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so Okay, fine. So the train, suppose the train has a length of say L, right? Train has a length of L, and someone who is observing the train, he observes the train as a whole. Okay, so he can see the front part of the train as well as the back part of the train, and the entire train is visible to the observer. Now, if that is true, you can easily understand that the light from the different parts of the train must not have started at the same instant, right? For example, that since the front part is closer to the observer, the light from the front part, is relatively, uh, relatively, it's the back part. Suppose let us denote it as a back part and front part. This is the back end of the train B. Suppose this is the front part of the train F, right? So when you see the entire train, so the light from back part and front part both should reach your eye together. Then only you can see the train as a whole. Otherwise, not. So both the light from the back part and front part has arrived at your eyes, and you can see the train. But the light from the front part and the light from the back part have not started at the same instant. The light from the back part of the train must have started earlier. So you may think that okay, there should be some time lag, that is, we know the length L and the speed of light is c. So suppose there is time lag of delta t. So you may think if there is a time lag of delta t, how much is the delta t? That will be L by delta c. You may think okay, because c delta t must be equal to, if delta t is the time lag between the two light rays arriving at the observer from the back and the front end of the train, then c delta t must be equal to L, right? That we can agree. Okay, but wait, see here what is happening. The train is moving. It is not at rest. It's moving. So before some time it may be here. The train may be here. It is moving, right? And we have assumed that delta t is the time interval. Okay, you should remember the delta t is the time interval or time lag. You can say time or time in, okay, time between you can also think this as the when the light from the back end crosses the front end, right? Then that time is delta t. Okay, so what should be the exact language? The language is this: light from the back end, when the light from the back end crosses the front end, that time taken by that light is delta t. So when the train was here before some instant, because it's moving, it is not at rest, it is moving with some velocity, say v, it's moving. So the distance traveled by light is c delta t, which is basically L. But what is the this distance? If I ask you what is this distance? Wait, I have written something, I think, wrong. What I wrote here is not correct. C delta t. Okay, first I have to define what is delta t. So delta t is fine. This is wrong. This should be L prime, right? This should be L prime. Let us call this L prime, and L prime should be c delta t. As I told you, the delta t is the time lag between the two rays arriving at your eyes from the back and the front end of the train. So if delta t is the time lag between the light rays coming from the back and front end, then c delta t must be equal to L prime. And L prime is what? L prime is when the light started here and it reaching your eye. So reaching your eyes from here onwards, they are traveling the same path, right? The back and front rays are traveling the same path, but the light from the back rays has to travel some extra path, right? And that extra path is basically this L prime, which is c delta t. And if you consider this delta t to be the time lag, then since the train is moving, so by the time delta t, the train has moved over some distance that is given by this one, right? If you look at this from this to this, right? And that should be equal to v times delta t, because v is the speed of the train and delta t is the time interval. So this should be v delta t. So delta t, so what is this then? V delta t, this is L prime. So I can write L prime minus the length of the train is equal to v times delta t. This is the distance traveled by the train over time interval delta t, right? And this is the length, L prime is the length or the distance which is traveled by the light signal over time delta t, right? So you could remember this is the distance traveled by the train, this is the distance traveled by the light, actually, L prime. And simply if you divide this, you can see L prime minus L divided by, if I divide by L prime, so this is one equation. Suppose this is one equation, this is second equation, then we get V by C, right? So L prime by L, L prime by L minus 1, okay, L prime by, so L prime minus L by V, so L prime by L, so this will be 1 minus L prime by L minus of 1 equal to V by C. So what should we get? We should get, am I correct? L prime by C, right? L prime minus L by V equal to, wait, এটা আমি ভুল লিখেছি, এটা L prime, right, L prime, so this is উল্টো হয়ে যাবে এখানে, L prime by L prime হচ্ছে 1 minus L by L prime equal to V by C. তাহলে এখান থেকে কি বলতে পারি? এখান থেকে বলতে পারি, what is the L prime? L prime is 1 over 1 minus V by C into L. What is L prime? L prime is this length, I mean this one. And what is L? L is the actual length of the train. L is the actual length of the train. And L prime is basically the, when you see the train, you are actually seeing the light coming from here. One light ray coming from here, another light ray coming from here. So that is L prime. So L prime, if L prime is L by 1 minus V by C, then what is the conclusion? That means the length of the train measured by the observer is not same as the actual length of the train, right? That should be multiplied by a factor of 1 over 1 minus V by C. And since V by C is always less than 1, so suppose V by C is, say, suppose 0.9, okay, it's very fast moving train, suppose. So 1 minus 0.9 will be, say, 0.1. So 1 by 0.1, that will be 10 times the actual length of the train. So L prime will be 10 times the actual length of the train. Now this is something different than what we have seen in relativity, length contraction. Here you can see the length has increased, right? L prime will be 10 times the length of the actual length of the train. So when the train is moving towards you, the length of the train appears to be longer than its actual length. Similarly, if I imagine a train which is moving away from the observer, what will be the differences here? You can see, and the picture will slightly change. I mean, so here the train is moving. Suppose the train is moving. This is a train. This is an observer. Again, the similar picture. So the train is moving away. So this is the front end. This is the back end. So then the different time difference between the light ray coming from the front and back. Since the front is moving away from the observer, also the back is moving away from the observer. So the light coming from the front end will meet the back side when the back side has moved here, right? Because it is moving away from you. So this will be L prime. So L prime will be a small short distance here. Here L prime was larger. Here L prime will be smaller than L because the train is moving away from you. So L prime will be shorter than the actual length here. You can see this L prime, and this will be your V delta t. This will be V delta t. So if you just write down the same equation once again, you can see that L prime will be 1 over 1 plus V by C times L. That means a train which is receding away from the observer will appear to be shorter by a factor of 1 by 1 plus V by C. Train which is moving towards you will appear to be longer by a factor 1 over 1 minus V by C, right? So this is a purely geometrical effect. This simply arises due to the fact that the speed of light is finite and the light from different parts of a volume is coming from different instant of time. So you can think this train to be the, so this train has a volume, right? It is a similar example because in this case also the charge is moving, the point charge is moving, and we have considered a volume around that moving point charge. So you can consider this train to be that volume which surrounds the point charge, and when it is moving towards you, its volume increases because cross section is not going to increase, right? Cross section is not going to increase or decrease. Length changes. So volume is cross section times the length. Since the length changes by some factor 1 over 1 minus v by c when it is moving towards you or away from you, that depends, right? It will be either plus or minus depending on the direction of motion of the of this volume. So this is purely geometrical period. I emphasize again that it has nothing to do with special relativity or general relativity, right? This is purely the outcome of the fact that the speed of light is constant, and because of that it takes, I mean, different time to reach the observer from different part of the volume, or any volume you consider, the information coming from different parts of the volume originates at different instant. And if it is moving, in this case it is moving, this is not a static volume, it's moving. That's why its size is changing, and that change in size will be given by this factor over there, 1 over 1 minus v by c. Now if we say in this case the train is either moving towards the observer or moving away from the observer, but it may happen that the train is moving along some arbitrary direction, right? That will only incorporate some another term which can be written as a component towards the line of sight. Let us see how can we so let us imagine the train, suppose train is moving this way, right? There is an observer somewhere here, right? Observer is here, suppose. So it makes some angle, but the length of the train is still L. It is moving along this direction, velocity v. So when you see the train, I mean, you see the front and the back at the same time, right? But this train is moving, so it must have originated somewhere there. And of course, this distance should be quite large so that the light rays are parallel, right? If it is very close, then of course there will not be parallel. If the observer is far away from the train, you will say two parallel rays coming from the back and the front end of the train. So suppose this angle is suppose theta, right? So then this if you drop a perpendicular, this will be how much? This is L prime. So L prime, this is L prime, this distance is L prime as we have denoted earlier. So this will be L prime cos theta. This one will be L prime cos theta. So delta C delta t will be L prime cos theta. So delta t will be simply L prime cos theta by C. Delta t will be L prime cos theta by C, which will be again L. This is not going to change, L prime minus, because the train is moving in this direction. So this will be still V delta t, right? That will be L prime minus L by V. This is delta t. If you equate that, you will again get another relation. L prime will equal to L divided by 1 minus V by C cos theta. Or you can write V by C as beta. That is L by 1 minus beta cos theta. Okay, so as this tells you that the length changes, so as the volume should also change. The volume of the train should be, to the observer, it should be V prime equal to V divided by, you can write this to be 1 minus V by C, or you can write R cap. In our particular example, R cap is the direction from the field point, the source point, and V is the velocity of the charge, moving charge. Remember, velocity is the moving charge at theta time tr by C. That means this 1 minus r cap dot beta. R cap is the unit vector. This is the velocity beta times V. So the volume, actual volume, and the volume observed by the observer observer are differ by a factor of this 1 minus, and this is a purely geometric effect that you should remember. This is a purely geometric effect, right? And if you incorporate this geometric effect while carrying out the integral, when you calculate the scalar potential, we have a rho r prime tr. So what we had an integral of this form phi rt. We wanted to integrate this equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 rho r prime tr over r dv prime. And remember the picture. So this is the moving point charge, this is the volume element. Point charge is at different point inside this. So this is our r prime, this is the field point r, and this is curly r, right? So the basic idea is that this take a sufficiently small volume around the point charge so that the curly r doesn't change significantly. So in that case, you can simply write this to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 r times integral of rho r prime tr dv prime. Now we have seen that the volume which is moving, in this case the charge particle is moving, so the volume which we have attached around it is also moving. And since the volume is moving, so this will give rise to the distortion, because earlier we discussed that if it is not moving and all the information comes from the same instant, then of course rho dv is going to be the same charge, because charge is q, the point charge has a charge of q, so you should get back the charge q. But the point charge is moving, so the charge density at different location are different at different instant. And since it is moving, so we have this pure geometric effect which will contribute here, and we shall write this to be equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 r. Of course the total charge is q, but that will be multiplied by some factor that we have just discussed about. This should be multiplied by some factor 1 minus r cap dot v by c, right? V is again the velocity of the moving point charge at this location. Now see, the velocity of the charge may also change from point to point. So when I write v is the velocity of the point charge at this particular location at time tr, and r cap is this direction, this is r cap. You take dot product of r cap dot v, that will take into account of this angle between them, that cos theta term will be thrown out of this. If it is moving towards you, then it will be negative, moving away from you it will be positive, and so on. So this dot product is just because of this. And if you simplify this, what do we get? 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0, and then q times c divided by, we get r times c, rc minus r times r cap is vector r dot already there vector v. Yes, so this is what we have for the scalar potential. You can also write this in terms of 1 minus r cap dot beta if you like, but anyway they are same thing. So this is the scalar potential produced by a moving point charge, scalar potential. We can apply the same strategy for the vector potential as well. Because vector potential, only difference is that there should be a current density, right? Mu 0 by 4 pi if you remember, and then we have current density r prime tr curly r dv prime. With the same argument, we can write mu 0 by 4 pi and then curly r outside, and inside the integral, what is current density? Charge density times the velocity. So rho at r prime tr into the velocity at particular location at particular time. It's the velocity of the moving point charge dv prime. Now as I told you that if you take a sufficiently small volume around the point charge over which this curly r is not changing sufficiently, also the charge is nearly taken to be constant, because it may be accelerating, it may be deaccelerating, it may have a constant velocity, whatever be the case. It takes very small volume around the charge to be nearly constant. So that's an approximation. based on the fact that the volume enclosed in this point charge is very small. So if you consider that to be the case, then you can write mu 0, this v is taken outside the integral, so mu 0 v by 4 pi r, and only thing left inside the integral is rho, which is already done. That's not a new thing. So that is simply rho r prime tr dv prime. So that is already done. So if you do that, then what do we get? We get something like this, mu 0, that will be mu 0 by 4 pi, that's the constant, and then we have q c velocity v divided by rc minus r dot v. And if we write mu 0 in terms of epsilon 0, mu 0 will be 1 by epsilon 0 c square. So c square, 1 c will be cancelled out, and then we have 1 by epsilon 0 here. So that means you can compare this with this one, 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 qc divided by rc minus rv. R dot v is this part is nothing but this one. If you look at this, this is same as this factor, right? This one. And I can bring 1 by epsilon 0 here by removing mu 0. I can write epsilon 0 c square, right? So that will give me equal to v is there, v divided by c square times the scalar potential phi rt. That means if I multiply the scalar potential for a moving point charge by velocity of the charge divided by c square, we shall get back the vector potential. So they are related, scalar potential and vector potential. And these two expressions for scalar potential and vector potential are called Leonard-Wishart potential. Now, this derivation of Leonard-Wishart potential is purely based on that geometric distortion which I discussed in this class. But again, as I told you, that there are multiple ways to derive it. But again, even if you derive it in different routes, the truth, I mean the physical region behind it doesn't change. It is the same thing. This geometric distortion is the region, but it may be hidden inside the derivation, which you may not capture clearly. So let me just show you another derivation, which is a little bit more satisfying in terms of mathematical sense, but that will not give you much insight into the problem. This is telling you why that particular term is arising out of that integral, right? So let me just show you another small derivation from relativity. Let us use, but again, it is not a product of relativity. As I told you, this has nothing to do with special relativity or general relativity. It is a pure geometric effect. And if you try to derive it from special relativity, you have to play some tricks, and the meaning will be hidden inside that. Let me see if you can capture the meaning here. I will derive it using relativity. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we want to arrive at the same expression. So let me just write down the expression first here so that you can remember them. So we have calculated the scalar potential for the moving point charge to be 1 over 4 pi epsilon 0. You can write qc divided by rc minus r dot v, right? And the vector potential is simply you can again write this, or v by c square phi rt. We want to calculate the same two expression from a different approach. Okay. Now let us to do that, we will construct something, some four vectors. Okay, so four vectors. What are the four vectors? We already know that the four potential is a four vector, because scalar potential and the vector potential, they together constitute a four potential, right? And here in this particular case, we want to write down the four potential in the frame of the moving charge, and suppose the frame of the observer at point P, right? And suppose I take a very simple scenario. Suppose I do not draw a complicated picture, because then I have to apply an arbitrary Lorentz transformation, which I don't want to. So suppose this is suppose the charge is moving and observer is here. Suppose the charge is moving with velocity say v, and since this is the frame of the charge, we can call that the rest frame of the charge. That potential, for potential is suppose a mu, and suppose in this frame suppose the so this is the moving charge and this is the observer. You may call this to be lab frame, whatever you like. So from the perspective of the moving charge, this lab frame is moving away from the charge with velocity v. That's obvious. And let us call this to be a mu prime, because from the view of point of the point charge, it's the lab frame which is moving. So let us call this a mu prime. So we want to transform that, but before transforming the potential, we should write down the four potential. So what is the four potential, right? So in the moving, so what are the expression for the four potential? If you remember, the expression for the four potential is, what is that? Phi by c and ax, ay, az, or a, right? A is the vector potential, ax, ay, az. Now, in case you switch to the frame of the moving charge, what should be the scalar potential and the vector potential? Since the point charge itself is not moving in its own frame, so what do you expect? That this should be equal to how much? So what is the point charge? Point charge has the magnitude of q, and the distance between the source point and the field point and the source point is curly r. So this is simply in some sense q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r times c, and this will be 0 0 0, right? This is the four potential. But before doing that, we have to find out a general expression for this term. How can we write a general expression for this term? So to do that, we define two 4 vectors. One is r mu. What is r mu? R mu is a 4 vector. Position and time include both of them. So this basically, if you remember the previous picture, what is curly r? Curly r is the distance between the source point and the field point. So there is a time interval between the 2 points associated here. So I can write it to be c times t minus tr. This is the time component of the 4 vector. And then we have x minus x prime, the spatial coordinates y minus y prime, and z minus z prime, right? So this is a 4 vector, which is 4 different components. Again, you can write this to be, again, if you remember, this is c times delta tr. There's a time interval between this is source and field point, and this you can write as the x component of curly r, y component of curly r, and z component of curly r. And if you remember, this is nothing but the magnitude of the curly r vector. So we can write this to be simply curly r, and then these 3 components to be the vector curly r, right? So this is r mu, right? And now if I want to write down the 4 velocity of the moving point charge, what is the 4 velocity of the moving point charge? Well, this is u mu, if you remember this. And what was the time component for the 4 velocity? That is gamma times the speed of light. And the spatial components are gamma times vx, vy, vz. Here I am using v. Earlier I used u, so don't get confused. Depends, because the charge is moving with velocity v, because I have used an expression notation of v for the velocity of the moving point. So that's why I'm writing v here. But again, v can appear inside the gamma as well. So you should be careful, because I have used v, that's why I'm writing v. Otherwise you should write u. So gamma v, this is basically the velocity of the moving point charge. This is the 4 velocity of the moving point charge. Now if I ask you what is say r mu, let us calculate r mu u mu. What is that? R mu u mu. R mu is this one contravariant, so you have to just take a negative of the spatial components, and the u mu is the 4 velocity. If you calculate r mu u mu, what is that? If I calculate this quantity in the rest frame of the observer, this is a Lorentz invariant. You can see r mu u mu is a Lorentz invariant. So if I ask you what is u mu, this u mu in the lab frame, okay, in the lab frame, what is u mu? In the lab frame, what is u mu? Sorry, this is not in the lab frame, in the particles frame. Okay, what is the What is the expression for u mu in the particles frame? Moving charge particles.
Gamma C, comma 0.
Yes. Gamma c comma 0, correct. So gamma c, gamma you can take outside. But what is gamma? What is gamma in the particles frame?
1.
1, right? So gamma will be 1. So no need to write gamma. Just c comma 0. Gamma is 1, right? Gamma is 1. So this is u mu, right? And if I ask you to calculate r mu u mu, what will be that in the rest frame of the moving point charge? You already know r mu, right? So the special part becomes, so what will be r mu? Let me write it. So r mu will be curly r minus curly r, right? If I take a dot product between this and this in the frame of the point charge, you see this is, since this is 0, doesn't matter whether it's plus or minus. Second term, this product will be 0. Minus rx minus ry minus rz will be multiplied with 0. So that will give you 0. So if you take a dot product between covariant components of this r, that is r mu, u mu, in the rest frame of the moving point charge, you will get how much? You will get rc, right? rc. You see, that is exactly what we want here. You see, there is rc here. You can see q by 4 pi epsilon 0 rc. You see, because if you divide it by c, you will get r, because this is pi by c. For scalar potential divided by c. Now, what is the general expression for r mu u mu? This is a specific expression in the frame of the moving point charge. What is the general expression for r mu u mu? That you can easily write down. What is the expression for r mu u mu? Because you know the expression, actual expressions. So if suppose if I, what is r mu? R mu is r comma minus curly r vector, and this is gamma c comma gamma v. So if I take a dot product between them, I get this is equal to gamma rc minus r dot v. You see, r dot v. This is a general expression, but this expression which we have written earlier here, which holds, because if I write this r mu u mu, so if I write, say, if I write the scalar potential to be q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r mu u mu, then I have no problem with this expression, because r mu u mu, this r mu u mu is equal to rc in the frame of the charge particle. In the frame of the charge particle. So if I put it here, I exactly get this result, q by 4 pi epsilon 0 rc comma 0 0 0, right? But if I go to another frame, then what will be the potentials? If I go to another frame, what will be the potential? I have already drawn the picture for, so I told you that this is lab frame, and suppose this is the particle frame. Particle is moving with velocity v along this direction. We wrote the expression for a mu. We want to calculate the a mu prime in the lab frame. Prime frame is lab frame here, because we have written the a mu in that frame. So what is a mu? The general expression for a mu that we have obtained is q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r mu u mu. And why can we write this? As I told you, if you take this expression, this will be equal to rc in the particles frame. So there is absolutely no problem, right? And since this is Lorentz invariant, if you can apply this, and this is a 4 potential, so you can apply Lorentz transformation. So in this example, if I want to calculate, say, a0 prime, say a1 prime, a2 prime, and a3 prime, or az prime, x, az, or whatever you like, you can write x, ay, az. Maybe I have used x, ay, az, so I should have written that. No problem. Okay, this equal to, in this particular example, the Lorentz transformation is quite simple. Gamma, and here we should have q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r mu u mu 0 0 0. How do I write this gamma then? Minus or plus? কি হবে এখানে? x axis পাবো, এটা x axis, right? This is y, this is z. কি হবে এখানে? গামা মাইনাস বিটা গামা or প্লাস বিটা গামা?
Plus.
প্লাস বিটা গামা 0 0 বিটা গামা গামা 0 0 0.0100001. Now you multiply, what do you get? A0 prime will be গুণ করছি q gamma divided by 4 pi epsilon 0 r mu u mu। আমরা r mu u mu আগেই বের করে রেখেছি। and তাহলে কি লিখবো? What is r mu u mu? If you remember, if you have forgotten that, let me write down once again. R mu u mu আমরা ক্যালকুলেট করেছিলাম is equal to gamma times rc minus r dot v, right? এটা যদি বসানো হয় এখানে তাহলে কি হবে? গামা গামা কেটে যাবে, তাহলে কি থাকবে? q over 4 pi epsilon 0 rc minus r dot v. This is a0. এখন what is a0? This is 5 by c, right? তাহলে 5 প্রাইমটা কত হবে? a0 প্রাইম, তাহলে 5 প্রাইম হচ্ছে 5 প্রাইম হচ্ছে a0 প্রাইম ক্রস c, তাহলে কত হচ্ছে? qc divided by 4 pi epsilon 0 rc minus r dot v, which is exactly the same expression that we have obtained earlier by using that geometrical effect. And what is a1 prime? a1 prime x component is in this case beta gamma times q, তারপর এগুলো সব জিরো হয়ে যাবে, তাহলে q beta gamma divided by 4 pi epsilon 0 r mu u mu। r mu u mu এর এক্সপ্রেশন জানা আছে, সো अगेन ইউ রাইট q beta gamma কেটে যাবে 4 pi epsilon 0 rc minus r dot v। এটা যদি সিম্পলিফাই করা হয়, বিটা হচ্ছে v by c বসাও, you will get exactly v by c square times phi prime. That means we get the same expression, right? But again, as I told you, so you have to think about it, right? How because I mean sometimes this is not a straightforward derivation, because I played some trick here, right? To and those tricks are basically the physical insight is hidden here, because if you want to get the meaning of the linear Wheelchurch potential from this derivation, it is not so straightforward, right? Because okay, fine, we get the same expression, and here we are applying a very simple thing like Lorentz transformation, so it may be a little bit satisfying that okay, I know the Lorentz transformation, I know the 4 potential, I know what is r mu, what is u mu, so we have arrived this expression from all those known quantities. This is fine, but this geometrical distortion is hidden here, so that you have to think where that geometrical distortion is coming into, right? This picture. But anyway, I mean there is another way by using which you can again derive this linear Wheelchurch potential, but I am not going to discuss that, because I mean there is no meaning of discussing the same thing, I mean, because we have a shortage of time also. So I will just discuss of this potential, what is potential, and then we start it. So this linear Wheelchurch potential important. I will think about this, where that geometrical effect is hidden in this expression, right? It must be there, because the physical origin is same, the derivation are different. So any question up to this? লিওনার্ড উইচের পোটেনশিয়াল নিয়ে কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে করতে পারো। আচ্ছা, তোমাদের আগের দিনের আমি নোটসটা দেওয়া হয়নি, জাস্ট পরীক্ষা নেওয়া খাতা দেখাতে ব্যস্ত ছিলাম বলে আমি তোমাকে আগের দিনের নোটসটা আজকের মধ্যে চেষ্টা করবো দিয়ে দেওয়ার। আর যেটা আজকে পড়ালাম সেটা হয়তো কাল বা পরশু 2 দিনের মধ্যে দিয়ে দেবো। তো আমাদের দেখো, আমাদের সময় কিন্তু খুব বেশি নেই আর, তোমরা অলরেডি জানো, তোমাদের অ্যানাউন্সমেন্ট হয়ে গেছে এক্সামের। আমাদের কিন্তু আরেকখানা টিউটোরিয়াল দিতে হবে, সেটা খুব বেশি তো ডিলে করা যাবে না, কারণ আমি জানি না কবে হঠাৎ ক্লাস সাসপেন্ড বলবে, জানি না। সো টার্গেট করা যাক মিড জানুয়ারি বা ম্যাক্সিমাম 20 জানুয়ারি, এর মধ্যে 15 থেকে 20 জানুয়ারির মধ্যে টার্গেট রাখা যাক, কেমন? তোমাদের আগে থেকে বলে রাখলাম, আমি হঠাৎ করে নোটিশ দেবো, কিন্তু তোমাদের একটা মোটামুটি তোমরা নিজেরা ডিসকাস করে ডেট ফিক্স করে রাখতে পারো যে কোন ডেটটা হলে সুবিধা হয়, বিটুইন 15 to 20 জানুয়ারি। আই মিন অফকোর্স মানে পড়ানোর থেকে পরীক্ষা নেওয়ার দিকে আমার মানে কোনো ইন্টারেস্ট নেই, কিন্তু এগেন ইটস এ পার্ট অফ দ্য কোর্স, আমাদের না নিলে সেটা কিছু করার নেই, নিতে হবে। যখন যা পড়ানো হবে ইন বিটুইন সেটাই সিলেবাস ধরে রাখো, তোমরা ডেটটা ফিক্স করে রাখো। আমি ইন বিটুইন 15 থেকে 20 ধরে রাখছি জানুয়ারি।
ওকে স্যার।
ওকে, তাহলে ঠিক আছে। যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে, again I can stay for some time if you have any question. ওকে, যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন না থাকে, ইটস ওকে, আমরা কালকে